Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Forced Fandom, the podcast where one person tries to force another to like a thing that they love. I'm here with Emily Bamforth, who has made me marathon my way through a bunch of Gilmore Girls. This week, we watched They Shoot Gilmores, Don't They?, which is the infamous dance marathon episode of Gilmore Girls. Emily, explain to me why this episode is so infamous.
I wouldn't even call it infamous. I would call it just gosh darn famous. Whenever I asked on social media, what should I make Taylor watch from Gilmore Girls, the answer was always this episode. Always. And there's good reason for it. There's a lot of plot progression. There's prime Gilmore Girls kitsch going on. You see Rory and Lorelai dressed up in USO attire. You see Kirk swing dance. It's a lot going on. And it's like pretty much the epitome of early seasons of Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, it was super kitschy. There was lots of drama. There was some dancing. There was lots of Lane's mom being a bitch. You know, it's basically the way I understand Gilmore Girls.
Yeah. All right. So, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Are you ready to talk?
I'm so ready.
Stars Hollow needs a tarp to cover the bridge, and so it's going to be the subject of the fundraising for the 24-hour dance marathon. This isn't the first year it's happening, though, and Lorelai, she has a little bit of a bone to pick. It's Lorelai versus Kirk.
Because it's a big trophy. It's a really big trophy. She really wants the big trophy because it's really big.
Lorelai loves big trophies,
as we have established.
She is also very competitive, and she's very excited, but she doesn't have a partner. She's looking. She can't find one.
And she is looking straight at Luke, who refuses, but does agree to set up a coffee stand at the dance marathon, which becomes an important plot point.
My name's Luke, and I don't dance, even though I love you, Lorelai. So, basically, Lorelai and Rory end up dancing together.
Yeah, there's a scene at Emily's where they establish that this is going to happen, but it's not really all that important of a scene outside of this part. I mean, there's some cute banter about pasta, but whatever.
I did like when Lorelai was chasing down that guy who was married, and his wife is like, "Oh, Lorelai's too pretty to dance with you." Like...
Right, and so she keeps saying, like, I'm not going to sleep with you. I would never sleep with you. And then he gets offended. And she's like, why are you offended? So there's that.
So there's that. And so I think that's pretty much... Isn't that all that happens before the actual dance marathon happens?
With Lorelai, Rory is at school and is hanging out with Paris because apparently they're friends now. I missed that part, whatever. The point is Paris is still crazy. And so she wants everybody to spend their whole Saturday working on the newspaper, but then her ex-boyfriend, on again, off again boyfriend, whatever, not important, shows up, and she already wrote his name in her revenge notebook. Why is he here? But then he says some cute things to her, and now they're back together.
Which boyfriend is this?
Jamie.
Is this Jamie? Ah, yes, Jamie. Jamie goes to Harvard. Or Yale. No, it's Harvard.
He goes to some prestigious school that isn't their school. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you missed a little bit there. She met Jamie. They're dating. It's pretty serious, except he did something I can't remember what. But yeah, Rory and Paris are now partners in crime, basically. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's fine. It's... How
do you feel about Paris?
I don't like Paris all that much. I think she's kind of irritating, but I realize she's like written to be that way. So I don't know.
Fun facts. My friend Kristen, she was watching Gilmore Girls for the first time, and I walked in one day and she just goes, "Emily, I used to think that you were Lorelai, but you're actually Paris." And I thought about it a whole bunch, and actually I am very similar to Paris, because Paris, for all her flaws, I very much appreciate. She is snarky and fun, and if you, after this, decide to partake in some of the college years, you'll grow to love Paris a little bit more. I think she's a partner in snark, Taylor. You can't ignore that.
I do love a good partner in snark.
Exactly. So that happens, and then we go to the dance marathon.
No, because We have to go to Rory's house where Lane, Rory, and Dean are hanging out and explaining to Dean why you have to call boys and then hang up on them without saying anything because it's the 2000s and that's the only way to know that they're not dating somebody else.
Isn't it? Yeah, right. If you did that now, your number would just get blocked. Like, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a pretty cute little dated reference and another excuse to be like, Dean doesn't understand girls. Okay, whatever.
Whatever, it's cute. It's fine. Then do we go to the dance marathon?
There's one more scene. See,
I may have not rewatched this episode before the podcast.
The challenge with calling this the Dance Marathon episode is, first of all, it's not actually called that, and second of all, the Dance Marathon doesn't happen until at least 15 minutes in, but that's fine, because we have to get through all the setup that makes the Dance Marathon seem like a big deal, including the fact that Rory's not sure she can go to the Dance Marathon because she's supposed to be working on the newspaper with Paris, but then Paris comes to school late, which never happens because she was out on a date the night before, and she cancels the newspaper work session because she wants to go see her boyfriend again, and so the other two girls in the newspaper immediately start asking every boy in class if they will go on dates with them.
Oh, Madeline and Louise.
That scene was cute, but it's really more interesting to see, like, Rory, who is more apt to just kind of throw everything up in the air when boys come and knock in, to now, like, have this obligation with her mom and have to ask somebody else to get out to something. That was kind of a change in the power dynamic.
It is, and it's part of Paris's, like, coming of age process, I think, because, like, she's obsessed with this boy, right? Like, she, for all of her, like, I am a power student and da-da-da-da-da, first boyfriend she gets just seemed to go out the window a little bit. And so you see Paris, it was kind of disappointing to me when this happened. I remember that very distinctly because when I first watched this, I think I was like 16. And I was like, no, like, you should not be doing that, Paris. That is not okay. Like, don't throw your career goals and newspaper goals out the window for some boy from Harvard. It's not worth your time, Paris.
16-year-old Emily had very interesting priorities.
16-year-old Emily kind of has the same priorities as 23-year-old Emily, but that's not the point. Anyway, now do we go to the dance marathon?
We sure do. And outside the dance marathon, Elaine's mom is passing out pamphlets that explain that dancing is the devil and you're going to go to hell. Also, Suki doesn't really want to have 4 kids, and everybody has to get a medical exam done because, heaven forbid, you collapse on the dance floor.
Mm-hmm. And what else? The egg sandwiches.
Oh, yes, there are also egg sandwiches along with the pamphlets that say you're going to hell.
That have no egg.
Yeah, they're egg salad sandwiches with no egg.
Oh, man. It's the most Mrs. Kim and Lane thing to ever exist.
Especially because they're just, like, scooping it out of this giant bucket, and, like, every time you see them for the rest of the episode, they're just making sandwiches. Like, okay.
I feel like we all know, like, that one table at every community event that does that kind of thing.
This is so true.
Yes. So Taylor and Miss Patty are there. They're emceeing and judging. 2 of my favorite characters of all time.
And my favorite character, Babette, is there. And about one song in, she says, "I'm done. Let's go." And she leaves.
Do you still love Babette?
I love Babette. She has about as much tolerance for dance marathons as I do.
Babette's like, "This was fun. Bye." And then Morty, I think his name is, he's like, "All right," and then, like, leaves. I love him. I love their whole bit. Babette and Miss Patty are also super good friends. I don't know if you know that. And
yeah, we established this last time.
Squad goals. Squad goals. Love them. 10 out of 10. I'm so glad you love Babette. Like, it's not the character I thought. Like, she's your log lady.
She is. She's the log lady for this show. Which brings us to an interesting point. Another very Twin Peaksy episode here.
Oh, God, you're reading into it again.
No, like, for real, there are some very, like, David Lynchian things, as well as an obvious David Lynch reference that we'll get to later.
All right, whatever. I'm looking forward to hearing your theory. So it's very, very, very early.
Yeah, and everybody's dancing really fast, and everybody's still there dancing. And, you know, it's early in the morning, and they need some coffee, and Luke's there, and he's got the coffee. And okay, yeah, you have to dance a lot, whatever. Things don't really get interesting until Jess comes storming across the dance floor as an unauthorized person, carrying some random blonde girl in tow.
She's not a random blonde girl. She's like this like girl that he makes out with all the time. She works in
and so basically they just make out all the time at the dance marathon, and it really upsets Rory.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit, though. Let's go back to the Suki and Jackson.
Well, I was going to get to that when the next altercation happens.
Why must we go out of order?
We're going in order. Because in my mind,
we're going out of order.
Well, so here's what happens. Jess storms in, and there's a brief moment between Jess, Rory, and Dean, and it's kind of like, okay, whatever, we can't really do anything about him, so we'll just try to ignore him. So then the Gilmores continue dancing, only to be interrupted again by Jackson, who comes over with Suki and is really, 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 really upset. And Lorelai has no idea why, until finally he just starts yelling and explains that, oh yeah, that casual conversation that Lorelai and Suki had outside the dance marathon where Lorelai said, maybe you should probably tell him that you don't want to have 4 kids in 4 years. He read into that as Lorelai is now a part of their marriage and she's trying to take over his life, and what she thought wasn't a big deal at all and was just kind of like a throwaway conversation is now this like huge argument.
This is the part where they're running around the dance floor, right? Like, part of it is...
So it starts with them dancing, and then Taylor blows the air horn and makes them all run in circles around the dance floor, and Rory's really tired and upset, and Kirk is being an asshole, and Jackson is trying to yell at Lorelai while also running.
Jackson, like, loves to project these decisions onto Lorelai. Like, it's just so funny that Suki's like, oh, yeah, Lorelai says this is crazy. Like, it's such a Suki thing to do. But, yeah, also, prime kitsch right there. Prime kitsch.
See, you say kitsch. I say this is something straight out of a David Lynch show.
Why did you say that's out of a David Lynch show?
Because somebody's having a life-changing, serious conversation, but they have to do it while running in circles around a gymnasium during a dance marathon.
Why is this a Lynch? To be fair, I am not as experienced in David Lynch as you.
Did you get to the part of Twin Peaks with the Norwegians?
Yes, I got to the part of the Twin Peaks. Yes.
Yeah, see, this feels like the Norwegians. It's like something is happening, and then you have to interrupt it with the most ridiculous thing ever. But what was going on just keeps happening with that in the background.
I feel like that's a common thing not attributed to David Lynch.
I mean, usually his things are more creepy, but I think that there's this certain like small town weirdness factor that they're playing with in this episode that is definitely influenced. And I'll get to the reference in a minute.
I'm going to let you keep imagining that this is a David Lynch inspired show. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody out there tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that this is completely influenced by David Lynch.
Not completely, just partially.
I mean, here's the thing, though. In the revival, I'm not going to go into details. There are very, very heavily influenced, David Lynch influenced scenes. It gets super surrealist in part of the revival, but I don't think that's what's happening here. Like, I
actually want to watch the revival.
The revival, well, first of all, we're not even going to get started on that. That will be an hour-long podcast if I start talking about that. But there are, like, multiple scenes where you would probably pretty much enjoy them, except they're kind of fluffy, but whatever.
So anyway.
Anywho,
back to the dancing. But first, Jackson has to storm out of the dance marathon, and then Suki kind of looks around before Lorelai's like, leave! And she goes to deal with him. So while they're off trying to deal with that, Lorelai's shoe breaks, and so she has to go to Luke to fix her shoe. Mm-hmm. She uses her yellow emergency card, which allows her to leave the dance floor for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And Rory can't stand up straight, so Dean has to hold on to Rory. From this point forward, things start to fall apart. Both
Rory, first of all.
Yeah, both in the story and meta in the episode. So for starters, everything that happens from here on out is supposed to happen in the next 10 minutes. I don't believe that, but that's fine. We can just allow that and keep moving. So here is the sequence of events that happened in those 10 minutes as I understand it, and maybe you can help me fill in some gaps. Lorelai goes to Luke. I need to fix my shoe. Luke, that sucks. Lorelai, do you have some glue? Luke, yes, I have some glue at the diner. Presumably, they go to the diner to go get the glue because we don't see them again until the end of this whole sequence. So then Rory and Dean are dancing, and Rory is barely awake, but somehow looks up long enough to see that Jess is like staring at her creepily as always, and then he starts making out with that girl when she notices, and then Rory says that they need to get a room, and Jess gets really upset and says, I'll do whatever I want, and Rory says, you're not even dancing, why are you even here? And Dean starts getting aggravated, and Jess says, I can be wherever I want to be, or something to that effect. And then Rory says you should leave, and the girl says I want to leave, and Jess is like, I'm not ready, and so she storms out, and then Jess tries to storm out, and then in this process, somewhere or other, Dean just gets really upset and yells that he's out. His exact words are, I'm out. And
out!
And he breaks up with Rory and leaves.
It's not out of nowhere, right? Like,
no, it's not out of nowhere, yeah.
Like a very, like, snap decision, but, like, this is the breaking point for Dean. Dean has been an awful nice guy about this whole thing.
Oh, he has, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's been like, okay, she'll do what she wants. Okay, he breaks her arm in a car, like, they're in a car together getting ice cream, and her arm ends up broken. Like, cool? He's been very understanding with Rory. And this is it for him. And so, bye, Paper Towel Dean. Farewell.
I'm sorry, Paper Towel Dean. This really was a terrible way for him to go. Like,
are you in support of Dean?
Oh, if I were Dean, I would have done the exact same thing. I think, like, he was getting totally screwed over in this situation and had every right to leave. And if I were in that situation, yeah, I would leave in a second. Rory doesn't really like handle this in the most constructive way. She just kind of like melts down and doesn't really even like try to go after him. She just kind of like stands there, which was really strange to watch. I understand, but it was very strange. We have to have an aside from that though, because there's something else that purportedly happens in these 10 minutes. Lane is in the lobby handing out eggless egg sandwiches when her mystery boy comes in. Adam Brody. So Adam Brody's here, and he's here to see Lane and talk to her about, wanting to be with her and missing her and all of this stuff, only to have Lane's mom butt in and say, who are you? Which is something she asked Jess earlier, and watching Jess cower in front of Lane's mom was amazing. But anyway, so Lane's mom is being mean, and Adam Brody doesn't skip a beat. He immediately says, oh, I just heard so much about these sandwiches and I wanted to try one. And he tries one and he's like, actually, can I have one for later? Actually, I want to take some to my parents, but they're in Bible study right now. So can I wait on the front steps of the church for them to get out and then come back and get them some sandwiches? Flawless con man, that Adam Brody.
Oh, man, I love Dave Rogowski so much. Like, he's a great character on this show because, like, Henry, he did his best. But like he was not down to play, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like
he couldn't handle Lane's mom.
And Adam Brody, he's a killer, man. You can't hate the guy.
So this is the point though. He walks in and Lane says, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Well, you were telling me about this and you said that it was sort of like Blue Velvet, and I wanted to see if you were right."
Oh, there is a David Lynch reference.
Yeah.
Huh.
You can't get any more oblique of a David Lynch reference than literally calling the premise of the episode like something out of a David Lynch movie.
Well, here's the thing. If I had rewatched this episode directly before this podcast, I would have
got a responsible Potter. Yes.
Yeah, but alas, I did not do that. I have been working off my 4 or 5 or 6, probably like 10 watches of this episode. There is a direct David Lynch reference. So it is true to say that Amy Sherman Palladino is probably influenced by David Lynch.
Thank you. But all I wanted was to hear that.
Who isn't?
Also true. At this point, Rory has run off from the dance marathon somewhere during this scene and is now back at the bridge where we had the lunch with Dean earlier. This bridge is around a lot. People apparently can get to this bridge very quickly and then get back into town very quickly.
They run!
Yes, they run to the bridge. Everyone runs to the bridge.
No one walks casually to the bridge.
You just see people all over Stars Hollow just sprinting, and you're like, oh, they're going to the bridge.
Something traumatic has happened.
Anyway, Rory's at the bridge sulking, and Jess comes by in suitable creepy Jess fashion by walking up on her in the dark, not saying anything, and immediately initiating a conversation from behind her back.
Because he knew she went to the bridge because something traumatic happened.
Right, and so he comes out and just says, are you definitely done with Dean? And she says, or I think he apologizes for like it happening in public or something. Point is, he asks, are you definitely done with Dean? And then she says, yeah, I think so. And then he says, then I need to go take care of something, and walks away into the night creepily.
Jess, you're gonna break up with the blonde girl. Jess, you love Rory so much. Did you not have this reaction when you watched this episode? Because I like screamed.
I mean, you see it coming for so long.
But yeah, that's the flipping point. It's like it finally happened. We knew it was coming. We didn't know when. And now it's final. And as soon as he finds out they're done, he's like, okay, gotta make myself available because I love you, Rory.
Oh yeah, he does say he loves her in this scene, doesn't he?
No.
I thought he did.
No.
The scene on the bridge fades out to black like all scenes on bridges do, and we return to the gymnasium where Lorelai's barging in looking for Rory and also Jackson and Suki, who are nowhere to be found. So around this time, Kirk wins the dance marathon because someone literally collapses onto the floor and possibly dies. This dance marathon seems like a terrible idea.
Well, Darwinism.
I disagree with that statement wholeheartedly.
Darwinism. You gotta funnel them out somehow in Stars Hollow. They just keep reproducing otherwise.
Just so many non-speaking characters. What are we going to do with them?
Kill them off!
Boy, that would make this show a lot more interesting.
Somebody put poison in the baskets!
Oh no!
That would be very David Lynch.
It would be. But instead, we get a honestly kind of weirder Lynchian thing here. So they alluded earlier to the fact that every year Kirk wins, and every year he runs around the gym listening to the theme from Rocky when he wins. Mm-hmm. And so in this scene, Lorelai is upset because Kirk has just won again, and Rory comes in, and Lorelai's like, where have you been? We lost. I can't believe this. Oh my gosh. And then she sees how upset Rory is and how she's crying and her makeup's all over her face and she's so upset. And she just hugs her and stands in the middle of the gym floor as Kirk accepts his trophy and starts running circles around them while the theme from Rocky plays and the camera slowly pulls upward and then credits. This was such a weird way to end an episode.
Yeah, it's odd. But I think appropriate.
Appropriate, but very odd.
It was an odd episode, but it's a great episode. I think that, yeah, it's Rory being comforted by her mother, and in a very weird. There's no way to dissect that scene. It's just a scene. It's very iconic. That shot of Rory crying on her mom's shoulder.
Yes, it's very cute.
It's just like this was this really fun thing. And now it's just a really sad thing. Like, it doesn't always work out.
Sometimes you lose dance marathons.
And boyfriends. At the same time.
Sometimes.
At the same time, sometimes, yes. So, what episode are we on, dude?
This is our 7th Gilmore Girls episode.
There's only one left!
Yeah, you only have one more chance.
Oh, God. Oh, God. So how do you feel? Where are you on your sliding Gilmore scale?
I'm really conflicted right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a few episodes ago, I was like a 7 out of 10. I'm somewhere between a 5 and a 6 right now.
How did it get worse? You had the car episode. You liked the car episode.
I did like the car episode, but there was something about this episode that really just didn't completely jive with me in the way that I wanted it to.
I'm going to be so disappointed if this is the most popular episode, Taylor. This is the most.
I think part of it is that I just haven't had much time with some of these characters who were more important here.
Right.
Like, I really haven't had a ton of time with Suki and Jackson.
Right.
So that's probably part of it, although I understand how their relationship works, so I feel like I'm okay on that. I don't know, like, I definitely feel favorable towards the show. I don't know if I'm ready to call myself a fan. Like, I'm in the boat right now where if I turn on the TV and it's on, I'm gonna watch it.
Okay. All right. I am okay with that. But let's see if we can get you on this last episode.
So what's your, like, pull out all the stops, this is your last chance to make me love Gilmore Girls episode?
It's hard because we've been going in chronological order and we've hit some really, really big episodes. So I'm going to need to figure this out.
And so if people want to help you figure that out, how can they do that?
You can message me on the Twitters at Emily M. Bamforth.
And if you want to, I don't know, argue about the merits of dancing with me, I guess.
It's a sin!
Is dancing a sin? Let's find out together on Twitter. That won't go badly at all. You can tweet at me at TC Olmstead. And I guess we'll be watching some more Gilmore Girls next week.
I can hear it coming in the air.
That was probably just the engine.
Oh.
All right.
I'm singing Phil Collins.
I know, but I want to pick it back up because I got stuff to do tonight.
I don't have anything to do tonight. I don't have things.
Nah, we're going to have to wait it out.
I can feel it coming
All right, train's
in the air tonight.
Time to keep going.
Uh-oh.
So